When a child draws the sun as a circle with straight lines radiating outward, that child is drawing the true straight rays of the dielectric lines of force which return to source. The apparent sun sits at the projected charge between the capacitor plates of the tropical gap, and the dielectric carries the power generated by that projection straight back inward towards the central vortex. This is the return that powers the entire engine. The Milky Way is the body of the dragon, the spine of the visible sky. Its wings are the upward and downward flexing of the field. The northern hemisphere exhale and the southern hemisphere inhale, beating above and below the times of equilibrium. The dragonfly wings are the breath of God made visible. The sun is pulled entirely by the breath, yoked to the Analemma, riding the magnetic field. The lambda decay pulls the system slightly out of phase continuously, and the motion of the vortex itself spiraling causes the image of the upward and downward flexing of the ecliptic plane to appear to cross over itself, twisting into a volumetric figure 8. The 0.2422 is not a number to be corrected or subtracted or ignored. It is not a mistake or a drag. It is the observed friction of the system itself. It is the spiral made measurable. It is the fraction of the breath, the overlay where the perfect template and the physical motion of time do not fully align. It is the signature that every breath leaves behind. Two distinct measurements exist within the breathing architecture, and they must not be confused with one another. The 0.2422 is the fractional day, the excess of the solar year over 365 whole days. The gap between the calendar's closed loop of 365 days and the true respiration and spiral of ascension of the engine. It is the lambda decay in the 3D depth, and it is the friction of a single yearly breath measured in days, 0.2422. There is a second measure, smaller and slower to reveal itself. It is the 20-minute drift between the tropical year, the cycle of the seasons, and the sidereal year, the Earth's true return relative to the fixed stars. This is not the breath of the single year. It is the precessional creep that produces the 25,920-year toroidal heartbeat. Here, measured at its smallest possible increment, the single tick of the great gear rather than its full rotation. 20 minutes a year accumulated is the epoch itself slowly turning. The 0.2422 is the breath. The 20-minute drift is the gear of the heartbeat ticking once. Both are real, both are friction, neither is error. The small gear and the great gear turn together. The same engine measured at two different depths of time. Where these two loops align on the 2D plane represents the field coming into perfect equilibrium twice per year. The exact center of these 2 points forms a perfect geometric diamond. This central diamond is the dielectric gap, the Holy of Holies, the stable cube of the New Jerusalem. To comprehend the true shape of the Analemma, you must envision the flat 360-degree circle of the true sun, pulled by the toroidal breath, moving in a continuous, unbroken spiral, a spiral that only appears as a closed loop from above or below without perceiving the depth. As the year progresses, the rim of this spiral flexes upward to the summer solstice and downward to the winter solstice. The perceived crossing points expand when you pull the center overlap of the strings into the depth of the z-axis. That diamond in the center is the spatial manifestation of the Vesica Piscis itself. It is the true time of stillness that exists between the upward flexing and the downward flexing motions of the year. The forward spiraling motion creates the toroidal torque. The spiraling vortex combined with the lambda decay introduces a temporal resistance that causes the path to appear to cross, manifesting the figure 8. The lemniscate intersection rather than a simple circular loop. The vortex provides the velocity. The decay provides the geometric shift. This shift is the transition from a closed circular loop to the self-intersecting lemniscate, the physical manifestation of the system moving from a simple loop into a dynamic twisting state where the upward and the downward cycles offset their trajectories to create the appearance of a crossing intersection. A coiled spring from above appears as a closed loop, a closed 2D circle. From the side, it reveals an infinite helical spiral. When you compress a 3D spiral into a 2D map, the geometry loses its depth. Perceived coordinates may line up from above, but when viewed from the whole system, the complexity and the depth, the true coordinates are revealed. This dimensional compression is why a crossing might appear to register on a date in a flat projection, while the true z-axis intersection completes on an entirely different coordinate. The complexity of the whole and the depth itself reveal what a flat map conceals. The 2D crossing date does not announce itself instantly. The fields overlaying the Vesica Piscis carry within them every frequency of the toroidal engine. When these signals travel through a dense medium, the medium itself separates the signal by frequency. The highest frequency components, the finest, fastest harmonics of the field, outrun the bulk of the body of the signal and arrive as the projected image first, while the main mass of the field is still descending through the etheric throat. The leading edge of that signal is called the precursor. It is real, it is detectable, it is not the crossing itself, it is only the herald of the crossing, still completing behind it. April 13th carries the Vesica in 2 parts. The half day begins at the midpoint of the 13th of April. This is the entry into absolute equilibrium. The full 3 days on the 14th, 15th, and 16th, completing the 3.5 days. The gate then opens on the 17th, the exit into resumed motion. April 15th sits at the very center of this window, the deepest point of the stillness, 2 full days before the gate releases. The apparent crossing perceived on the ground falls precisely here on April 15th, in the heart of the equilibrium itself, where the field is at its most motionless. Only a true precursor, a leading edge of the signal, outrunning the bulk of the field, still descending through the dense atmosphere above, explains a detectable crossing registering at the exact center of a window defined by its absence of motion. August 31st to April 6th is the 7 days of unleavened bread. The field flattening, no longer rising as it completes its final discharge. The Vesica itself begins at 3 a.m. on September 6th, under the moon rather than the sun, and closes by 3 p.m. on the 8th. This is the 2.5 days of true equilibrium. This side carries no gate. April's Vesica resolves into a threshold, an exit released into the kinetic motion of the 17th gate. September's Vesica resolves into emptiness. The field at this point is hollow. Having completed its discharge, what follows is not a doorway opening outward, but a vacuum awaiting the inflow of the next inhale. The precursor on this side runs ahead of, not a gate, but the vacuum's draw, the moment the empty field begins pulling the new breath inward. Through the empty field, at the end of the exhale, this precursor runs ahead by 9 days, from August 31st to the vacuum's draw beginning on September 8th. Through the full field, the breath, still held at the point of the greatest density just before the gate releases, precursor runs ahead by 2 days, from April 15th to the exit on the 17th. What is happening above is a projection. For signs and for seasons, Genesis 1:14. It is not instantaneous, and what is perceived below can arrive ahead of the engine that produces it. April 6th, the sun rides the donkey to the gate. On the 8th day, April 13th, there are 3.5 days of stillness. April 15th is the precursor of that exhale and crossing being observed. April 17th is the exit gate. August 31st is the entrance of the 7 days of stillness. September 6th marks a 2.5 day Vesica Piscis, with the exit on the 8th of September. The precursor is seen 9 days earlier than the exit of the gate on August 31st. The engine of what is happening above is a projection. For signs and for seasons, Genesis 1:14. It is not instantaneous, and what is perceived below can arrive ahead of the engine that produces it. 2 Peter 3:8. But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. This is the literal geometric expression of the cube. 10 times 10 times 10 equals 1,000. And this is the exact metric of dimensional compression of the torus. At the lip of the true sun, at the 0-point center, time does not exist. It is a state of pure instantaneous presence, and that energy falls down into the torus and expands outward to the physical projection. Time dilates exponentially, and the frequency drops massively. One tiny movement of the true breath of God at the center of the stillness in the central vortex translates into a massive celestial alignment at the outer edges of the realm. We have a tiny lifetime. The larger breath of God is spanning epochs, breathing from the black hole to the white hole in one grand inhale and exhale, just like our breath. Psalm 23:4. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Walking through the valley of the shadow of death is the soul descending into the lower loop toroidal field, passing through the dense underground cycle where the twisting darkness and the etheric friction are at their highest. This is the belly of the serpent's traverse and the underground arc below the plane of inertia, where the magnetic drag is maximum. To lie down in green pastures is to reach the exact point of absolute equilibrium within the Vesica Piscis Diamond at the center. Green is the exact center of the visible light spectrum. The green pasture is where the overlap of the field happens. It is the harmonic balance of the rainbow arc and the intersection of the vesica in the direct frequency of the heart chakra. The green pastures represent exiting the loop of time entirely, to rest in the still point of the dielectric gap. The still waters are the dielectric gap itself, the zone of zero kinetic motion and the plate of perfect equilibrium. The rod and the staff are the two governing forces of the field. The rod is the dielectric line of force, straight, and the return current running from the tropical gap back along the spine of the central axis to the vortex. The staff is the magnetic field line, curved and arcing transversely through the 720-degree cycle above and below. Together they comfort because together they hold the field, the straight return current, and the curved containing structure, the spine and the arc, anchoring the soul through the valley and into the stillness of the green pasture. The straight lines are the spokes feeding the hub. The magnetic arc is the rim and the outer containing structure. The central vortex is the hub drawing the current home, and the entire structure spins on this geometry, the dielectric spokes channeling power inward at precise angular intervals within the gap. The whole assembly rotating around the vortex that receives what the gap generates. This architecture is the reason the apparent sun functions as the true capacitor plate. The projection in the toroidal gap generates the charge. The dielectric carries that charge straight back to the vortex. The vortex, replenished, sustains the projection that generates the next charge. Above and below the gap, the magnetic field completes its full 720-degree arc, the outer structural breath within which this inward power return takes place. The sun performs a perfect 360-degree rotation within the dielectric gap, anchoring the tropical ring. The stars and moon occupy the interior of the hyperboloid vortex, tracing the S-curve, the rhythmic cardioid of the field's respiration. These are not two separate systems. They are two aspects of one breathing mechanism. The toroidal field is a lung. It inhales centripetally, drawing energy inward and downward towards the central vortex. It exhales centrifugally, radiating energy upward and outward from the vortex through the tropical gap and to the outer rim. The 12,960-year black hole inhale and the 12,960-year white hole exhale are the macro expressions of this same mechanism. The daily respiration of the sun along the dielectric lip is the micro expression. The same breath, the same lung, the same creator, breathing across every scale of the architecture simultaneously. The 2D circle of the projection and the 3D spiral of the engine are not two different realities. They are one reality seen from two different positions. From above the plane, the motion appears circular and closed. From within the depth, the motion reveals itself as an infinite ascending spiral. The choice of perspectives determines what is seen. The echo is not the voice. The shadow is not the source. Genesis 1:14. Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons. The season is the sea sun, because the sun is hidden in the dense waters of the sea, the mem, the waters above, the medium and the current that must be crossed before it ever reaches the shore. The sign is what is seen. The sun is found only by those who look beneath the sea. The true geometry emanates from the source, not the projection.